Hey, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Paul,
And I'm Patrick.
and we're going to discuss, since the end of Game of Thrones has happened, maybe possible replacements.
There's a big hole left by Game of Thrones going. It's a big smelly hole now because lots of people hate it. But you know that hole's got to be filled. There is going to still be a hunger out there for a replacement or the next big fantasy thing.
And don't forget, Tuesdays and Thursdays release videos, so please, once this video is checked or finished, go on over to the channel and check them out.
Cool.
So we're going to talk about the replacements. So we've got a fair few kind of ones, and I've kind of chosen which I believe is going to be the ones, and I've discussed them with you.
Yeah. Paul is the more well-read in the fantasy genre, I guess, is the way to put it.
Yeah, I guess so.
So I think we should maybe work back up to the one that I think we both think is the most likely right now, which is being produced, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. No, definitely.
Because it's also the one that I then know a little bit more.
Yeah, so I've written them in my course normal book, but I'm going to reorganize them a little bit.
Magic notebook. Yeah, I just pulled this on Paul on camera going, can we do it in reverse?
That is perfectly fine. I am going to change the order a little bit. So we've got Lovecraft Country.
Okay.
Which is based off the short stories of H.P. Lovecraft. It's been produced by J.J. Abrams.
Oh, well, then it's getting support.
So it's a big one. And it seems in the recent times H.P. Lovecraft has come out as like a kind of a bigger deal. A lot of people are liking the horror gothic genre.
A bit of a darling, yeah.
Yeah, so have you watched... You've obviously watched some of the Del Toro stuff,
yes,
which a lot of it is taken off.
Yeah,
from that.
I know that's his area.
What is it, Scarlet Mountain?
I never watched that actually.
Is it called Scarlet Mountain?
Yeah,
I definitely
know the one
butchered
you're
that
talking
name.
about.
This will be more kind of like that. It's about it's about a man who is essentially looking for a parent or a person, and he is having to go through essentially Lovecraftian kind of landscape. So he's going to be fighting weird monsters, seeing kind of weird investigations and stuff like that.
So on a Game of Thrones rating, it's still fantasy, but maybe not Game of Thrones style just yet.
Yeah, it's more set in kind of the 1930s kind of thing, so it's a little bit more the speakeasy kind of like post... or pre-war kind of thing, but I think the intrigue of the world and stuff like that will grab people.
Yeah.
The next on my list is The Witcher.
Which I know is very famous, and yet I'm still not involved with.
Well, it's based on a bunch of Polish kind of like books and mythology mixed in with Celtic stuff as well.
And people cosplay the hell out of it.
Oh yes, definitely.
Can't avoid that. I do know that.
This is backed by Netflix.
Another one that's going to get support then. So you get J.J. Abrams in the first, and okay.
Yeah, so it's got Henry Cavill as the lead role.
With or without moustache? That is the only burning question now.
I'm definitely going to have
anytime he's mentioned.
I'm definitely going to have you to have a look at the look, because like as a person who likes.
Oh, I actually have seen him in his Witcher
with his
look.
silver hair.
Yeah, no,
okay.
and I do know The Witcher enough to know what the look he's going for is.
It seems weird.
Yeah, it felt uncomfortable. I can't think of another word. It was just like, because he does a whole kind of stepping out of the shadow a little bit forward, that Cavill in his moment. It's like, this feels wrong, Daddy.
They definitely have to get that wig better.
Yeah.
It seems like hair seems to be Henry Cavill's like downfall.
Would you say it's his kryptonite? Forgive me that one. I went for it. Let's move on quickly.
So it's backed by Netflix. So it's an intriguing world. It's got a rich lore and everything like that. So it could be like, a big hitter for the fantasy kind of hole that Game of Thrones is leading into. The next one is going to be probably not Game of Thrones. We've already finished that. The Wheel of Time books.
Yes, which you actually mentioned before, and I know you're a believer in.
Wheel of Time is a really, really good book series. Which is it's got a rich lore to it. It is got a complicated magic system, which is nice to a lot of people and stuff.
Yeah.
It's got like 9 books now. Not now, but it's got 9 books to it, so it's got a lot of material to write upon. So it could be a new runner for it.
Well, that'll definitely help, because I think Game of Thrones number of books ran out a little bit too soon for those writers. Yeah, I said it. I think you couldn't do it without the books, and I haven't even read the books. I just watched the last season.
Well, this is, you don't think, because George R. Martin said that he has the 2 last books written.
Yeah.
Which means you could have, like, George, could you not have given the writers of Game of Thrones, like, a little bit of help?
Also,
if you think that's the reason why.
Dear Internet, please do not blame the channel or Paul for what I'm about to say. I think George R. Martin might be a bit of a. You have a beep ready for this one? He's a bit of I'd say. He just comes across that way. I'm please don't hate the channel for it. Don't unsub.
Slightly distant.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No,
He'll defend him. So
I definitely think that is a common idea.
Feeling,
yeah,
yeah.
as in like I definitely think, because if he does have the 2 books already written, it's been quite a long time since the last one has been like released. So
yeah,
keeping them on is just seems like a money grab kind of thing. You
Well,
know.
yeah.
Now we have another one, which we already have a movie for, which did dreadfully, which is The Dark Tower, which is Stephen
Yes.
King's longest running series,
That was the Idris Elba flop from last year.
and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, which people forget.
All right.
All right, Stephen. All right.
So Stephen King's Dark Tower has a great, rich history of material there. You've got which is the main protagonist, which is a gunslinger.
Which
You've
I
got
really like the idea of.
yeah, it seems great. And I really do want to tell you something about them, and I really can't.
No spoilers here.
So yeah, it's got a rich kind of thing. It's an interesting world, very bizarre, and is also intertwined with the Stephen King's books.
The Stephen King universe is something that people are really able to find connections, even if they aren't there sometimes. I think
there's tons of stuff there.
It's kind of cool. I'm digging. I saw a great big graph and they linked everything together. I was like, geez, that was one hell of a pot of coffee the night that you stayed up and scrolled that in your wall. It was cool though. Fair play to them.
The Charlie Day from Always Sunny, when he's in the mail room and he's just like, I really need to tell you about this. Kind of thing really comes to mind with the theories about that universe.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put it maybe a little bit higher on the chances of stealing the Game of Thrones casual audience in the grander sense of the world. I think it has a pretty good chance because of the Stephen King hangover, as in people will be like, oh, I know him, because Game of Thrones, let's face it, Game of Thrones grabbed a lot of people that weren't into fantasy, and they're the people that you have to grab to be the next Game of Thrones. I think it stands so far maybe one of the better chances.
Yeah, it's got a kind of not only rich lore to it, it's also very familiar because it's set through different. There's moments within it that have different timelines in our world. So like they come into our world a little bit in the series and stuff. You saw in the movie. So like I think familiarity will also grab a lot of people.
That'll help.
So yeah, and then it comes on to I think both of our top pick.
Yeah, this is the favorite. This is the front runner.
Which is His Dark Material, written by Philip Pullman.
And the reason I think there's many reasons it's going to be a front runner, but even me as the newbie or the muggle or whatever to when it comes, because I don't read very much fantasy, I had heard of that years ago. I knew about it before The Golden Compass, which is the film
book,
that was made of the first book. They didn't make any follow-ups. I know it ended up being released by that studio and then was in development hell and yada yada yada. But importantly, one of the many themes it deals with, and I know it is expansive also, which Game of Thrones, that's one of its things. It deals with religion, which Game of Thrones, a lot of people don't consciously realize, but one of the big themes through it all was the various types of religion, like the sparrow, or as pigeon as I accidentally called them.
Yeah,
the other day.
the sparrows.
You know, you get the whole Maester thing, you got the Red Lady, the Lord of Fire. And you actually told me something interesting about a comet from the books.
Yeah, there's a comet in the books that isn't mentioned at all in the series. Spoilers. But all the different religions have different reasons towards it. As in, some of them are saying that it's a doomsayer, and then some are saying that it's like the return of magic and dragons into the world, and like it's interesting to see what every single religion is looking upon this one thing and having different meanings towards it. So
there's definitely a nice big comment in there, isn't there? That's so. If you're talking about His Dark Materials for you, what makes it the front runner for you?
I think it's just because it's got an interesting storyline that a lot of people haven't done before. The 3 books are really, really good. That you've got the Northern Lights, the Subtle Knife, and the Amber Spyglass. Yeah, it's just an interesting storyline, and it just builds and builds and builds and goes through so many different aspects. It's just a really interesting storyline.
So you could see it doing a Game of Thrones momentum build with people of, that first season might get a certain number, then word of mouth will grab in more and more. And
Oh,
it
definitely.
could do the same again. Well, it's got the talent, folks. It's got James McAvoy. It's James McAvoy. There's no point in going, Xavier from X-Men or anything. It's James McAvoy's been around. He's famous enough. I know the lead is Daphne Keane, I believe her name is, who was the young Weapon X or Weapon 23 in Logan.
Yeah. So she's playing the main character that we'll be following.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting kind of cool. James McAvoy might be playing the father, so that'll be really cool. It's already been greenlit for a second season.
And it's a BBC and HBO production. BBC produced it, HBO are going to be pushing it worldwide. HBO need another Game of Thrones.
They really do.
This could be it. So what do you say?
Yeah, so I definitely think it's the front runners. We're both thinking it's the front runner out of all of those series. I think a little the other ones are a little bit difficult to get into, but have great rich kind of histories and lore to it. But I think Dark Materials might just have that edge to it. So it'll be great. So let us know what you think about our list, and if there's any other ones that I've missed, please let me know, because I know I'm completely ignoring the Game of Thrones spin-offs and also the Lord of the Rings Silmarillion Amazon thing.
I don't know if we can even count it in this, because if you're coming out, and no offense Amazon, but if that's where you're going, you're not going to be the next Game of Thrones.
No, I think Silmarillion is an interesting book. It's just got a lot in it, and I think people are also tired of Lord of the Rings with The Hobbit.
Yeah, and I genuinely think the next big thing for that fantasy is going to have to be a major network or a HBO or whatever to get the same sort of traction, because they spent a lot of money making sure people knew this was on. Like they made me know about it, and I'm a million miles away from it, so fair play. I'd like to ask anybody out there that thinks there's one of these that should never have been made, because most of these are going to be made. Like, if you think his Dark Materials shouldn't be touched, because I know a lot of people are now saying that about Game of Thrones since it ended so badly. So I'd love to hear from the passionate fans out there. Other than that, how about if you feel like you like this, subscribe if you feel like you'd like to see more every Tuesday and Thursday, and drop us a comment, or even hit, what's the other one, the share. There's a little bell. It's all sorts of YouTube stuff. Do some of that.
So we've been Heroes 8. I've been Paul.
And I've been Patrick. See you next time.